Hello, and thank you for joining me today as I walk you through the introduction to FileCatalyst. I'm going to give you a very high overview of everything that FileCatalyst does. So at FileCatalyst, our goal is to make file transfer as reliable, as fast, and as secure for enterprise. We're a B2B business. We service all corporate clients that have a very common problem: how to send a large file over the internet very fast. We've patented our own acceleration algorithms that make the file transfer fast and reliable. Our patent is available in the US, Canada, and Europe. We also try to make tools that are very simple to use for the end user. So end users don't have to call help desk or support to figure out what to do and how to use our tools. We integrate with a lot of existing enterprise infrastructure, such as Samba or CIFS, LDAP, SMTP servers, and many other tools that are used within the enterprise today to schedule and manage data transfer. Our tools are also very well known for the ability to manage and monitor on what's going on. So you as the administrator can very quickly bring up a console and see right away who's transferring what and how fast they're going. And we provide a lot of tools for the cloud, for the modern object storage. So if your organization is thinking of doing a hybrid system or moving completely to cloud storage, we provide integration with storages such as Azure Blob, Google Cloud Storage, S3, Dropbox, and many others. As you can see from our list, we're a truly horizontal application. File transfer problems exist across many industries. We do, however, specialize quite a bit in the media and entertainment space, where we work with some of the biggest TV and movie production companies. We also work a lot in research for genomics and medical research. We work with military and government deployments, as well as we work with a lot of manufacturing and design companies. So really the reason FileCatalyst exists is that there are some key problems with TCP. So TCP is a protocol that has been in existence for well over 30 years. Today's internet relies on it, and this is what really makes the data flow in a controlled and reliable fashion between two endpoints on the internet. Everything on the internet we do today is done through TCP, including protocols such as HTTP, FTP, SFTP, SMTP, and many others. So with TCP, TCP is great because it is a reliable protocol. It works well to make sure to detect how much link is available to transfer. However, the TCP protocol is not good when it comes to large data transfer, especially once you start introducing latency and packet loss to the equation. So that means if you have two computers next to each other, everything might be transferring nice and quick. But however, as soon as you have more distance between the source and destination, then as you can see here in my graphic, the flow is very slow. So we send a little bit of data and we wait for an acknowledgement. And the next flow of data is sent, and for an acknowledgement you have to wait before the next data. So it's a very linear process. The further these 2 points are, the slower the transfer will be. Once you introduce problems on wireless or satellite connectivity, this problem is even worse. So what we decided to do with FileCatalyst is design our own UDP-based transmission protocol that is immune to packet loss and latency. And as I mentioned, we already are patented for this protocol. We can transfer up to 10 gigabits with encryption on a very standard hardware. We're not affected by latency, and our speed degrades linearly with packet loss. Our protocol is also very good at multi-threading, meaning that if you have multiple CPUs or multiple cores, the work can be spread out across multiple cores and CPUs, and therefore you can get much faster performance. Like in my example of a 10 gigabit transfer with encryption, you could have transfer going on one core, decryption going on another core, which speeds things up. So how does this look with FileCatalyst? Well, it's really ideal for bulk data transfer. It's predictable, meaning that if you transfer the same amount of data across the street or across the ocean, you will get the same reliability and speed. We're not affected by packet loss, meaning that a 5% packet loss for us means it is a 5% decrease in speed, not like with TCP where a 5% packet loss could mean a 40% decrease in performance. We have our own congestion control implemented, meaning that we will speed up and slow down by listening to the background traffic, and we will continuously adapt to this. The congestion control is fully tunable, so for cases where high priority cases, we can transfer very fast and not listen to background traffic, or if we want to be more fair, you can set us to be much more fair. And the capacity of the link is instantly detected with us. So as you can see here in my graphic, there are multiple blocks of data are going all at once, and acknowledgement is done on the much bigger block level, not at the window level. So that means that a lot more data has to flow through before an acknowledgement is sent. And even while the acknowledgement is still not received, the next block of data is already going. So you can see a lot more data flowing on the link. What the network fairness equals congestion control. And what this means is that you want a file transfer application to speed up or slow down depending on what's happening on the background of the link. So our goal is to make TCP slow, but not to make it fail. So if you have other TCP connections that rely on this link, they'll still be able to work. They will be a bit more sluggish, but that's the whole idea, is to maximize the bandwidth and to get as much data through your line as possible. So we are very good at immediately detecting the receive and send rates and adjust to it. You can tune a lot of these parameters to get the best performance for your needs. We can ramp up very quickly. If there's a congestion event, we will slow down and ramp up really quickly back to original speed. And our goal is not to require the end user to do any tuning from speeds from 1 megabit up to a gigabit. Once we get into a multi-gigabit transfers, things get a little bit more complicated. I'm sure we'll have some other webinars that will cover that. So how does latency affect speed? Well, you have a graph. This is based on a gigabit connection. And here you have your latency. So this is in milliseconds. So this is how long a packet of data takes to do a round trip time. So for example, I'm sending from Toronto to Paris. Well, what's going to happen is that there I'm going to have about 120 milliseconds latency. So I would be somewhere around here. If I'm sending data from New York City to Boston, I will be more in this area here. I'll be around 50 milliseconds. If I'm be sending files from LA to, let's say, Dubai, then I'll be looking more at the 2 to 220 milliseconds. So I can see that the latency increases as the distance increases. And therefore you can see here that FTP or any TCP-based protocol will just slow down, and it actually starts dropping exponentially as soon as you get to that range of 25 to 30 milliseconds, and our protocol stays stable. Now, What's interesting to know, if there is no latency, so we're living in a perfect world where you're sending everything, let's say, to a local area network, within local area network or within a campus, then FTP is probably good enough for you, because actually, as you can see, in a perfect situation, FTP is a bit faster than we are. But that slowdown happens very quickly. As soon as you leave, you start going between two cities, you start getting the slowdown. The gigabit transfers, so this was a gigabit. Now let's look at 10 gigabits. 10 gigabit problem is very similar. Here this graph is very friendly for FTP because it considers there is zero packet loss on the link, which is not true. There will be always a percentage of loss. But once you have the once you have even like 15 milliseconds of latency on 10 gigabit link, you're already seeing a very big speed degradation. And again, if you add into this packet loss, this will be even much slower. But this gives you an idea also on 10 gigabits how this applies. So again, if you're sending files locally, our tools might be still a good fit because we give you the management and the monitoring, but the acceleration part will be probably less visible. However, as soon as you add distance, then FileCatalyst is a very viable product. So how does this translate into time? Well, if you have a gigabit connection and you're sending a 10 gig file from Amsterdam to London, which is only about 350 kilometers, with FTP, that's going to take you an hour and 28 minutes. With FileCatalyst, it will take 1:23. That's based on a gigabit link. Now let's increase this distance to a few thousand kilometers. Let's say New York City to Buenos Aires, where you have 8,000 kilometers. Now FTP drops to 3 hours and 6 minutes for the same 10 gig file, while we continue at 1:23. And LA to Mumbai, again, further distance, the speed slows down again on FTP. With FileCatalyst, we continue going at the same speed. 10 gig is even more dramatic, as my previous graph showed. So if you have a 10 gig connection between LA to New York, you can expect your FTP transfer to take over 2 hours. We do it in 8.4 seconds. And if you grow this distance to, let's say, 10,000 kilometers, like London to Sydney, now an FTP transfer will take 5 hours or 6 hours to do this transfer in 10 gig line. We do it in 8.4 seconds. So what products do we offer? Well, we have a number of products that we've built on this technology. We have our FileCatalyst Direct, which is our core acceleration product. We have our FileCatalyst Workflow and Spaces, which is our web-based file transfer portals. And we have Central, that gives you the ability to manage and monitor everything FileCatalyst related. I will go through a quick demo and a little bit of a description of each product. So as you can see, our Direct is our core acceleration file transfer product, and it's a client-server architecture, so it follows a very similar deployment to FTP, where you have a FileCatalyst server on one end of your transfers. This FileCatalyst server can be connected to local storage, NAS or SAN, or object storage as well. And then you have some kind of an internet connection to the other side, whether this is internet or this is VPN, satellite, LTE connection. It doesn't really matter as long as it's an IP connection. And then you have multiple different client applications that can connect to either upload files to the server or download files from the server down. Why we have so many different client applications? Well, it's different use cases. So for automation, for example, if you want to have an application that wakes up at midnight every day, checks for new files on the server, and brings them down. Hot folder is bidirectional, so it could also check for files locally here. And again, hot folder can be connected to NAS or SAN, and can check for files here. And if there's any new content, it can start uploading this data to the FileCatalyst server. Of course, all the email notifications and messaging, all of this is included. Our desktop is our Express, what we call an Express client. So it's a piece of software that an end user installs on their desktop. They get an interface very similar to FileZilla, and they can then drag and drop files between local and remote directory structures. Browser is actually very similar to our desktop application. It uses our transfer agent, but it all runs from the web. So you can send someone just a link. In that link, there will be information of how the user can connect to either upload and download files, and as well they will be provided with step-by-step instructions of how does the inline installer work. So the installation of the transfer agent can happen inline while the user is clicking on the link. Mobile, if you go to iTunes or Google Play, you will find our mobile application, and SDK and CLI. That's we provided Java, C++, REST APIs to initiate file transfers programmatically. On top of all of this, we have also Central, which I'm going to talk in a few minutes about, how you can manage all of this, and you have the remote administration of both the hot folder and the server. This is especially useful when you're working on a headless Linux install where you install FileCatalyst Direct. FileCatalyst Direct server, as I mentioned, can connect to many different data storage locations. It can do, of course, local drives. It can do NAS or SAN using UNC paths. It can do NFS mounts, but can also connect using object storage. We have a number of object storage connectors that we've built, including connectors to Amazon Web Services S3, Wasabi, Backblaze, Microsoft Azure, Google Storage, and Dropbox. We also provide some private cloud provider integrations if you're using private cloud storage to solutions like SwiftStack, Dell, Caringo, and Cloudian. The big thing about the storage is that a lot of these storages come with something called S3 compliant connector. But what we've noticed in the past is that because S3 is not necessarily a standard that is fully community supported, there's a lot of differences between one S3 integration to another S3 integration. So we actually made sure that all these different connectors work properly by testing those solutions and making sure everything works fine. So these are, yes, there's a lot of similarities between them, especially if there's S3 connection, but every provider has a little bit of their own quirks that we've had to build to make this work. So this, again, the acceleration to object storage, you ideally want to be as close as possible to the object storage you want. So for example, if you have a object storage on S3 on the US East Coast, well then, and set up your FileCatalyst server on US East Coast as well. So you do the long haul traffic through UDP over the internet, and then the last little leg can go as quickly as possible because your FileCatalyst server is on the same region as the S3 storage. So this is useful. A lot of our customers, for example, will set up the storage on EC2 if they want to go this way, but it's not absolutely necessary. So let's go into the demo now. So let's go back to this deployment diagram that I showed you earlier. I'm going to just tell you what I'm going to show you in my demo. I'm going to show you the FileCatalyst server part, which is the main hub of where all the data flows through. And I'm going to show you our hot folder client, which is the automation for accelerated file transfers. So I'll be just showing these two pieces. It's a very short webinar, very quick demo, so I don't want to get into all the other details, but you'll get an idea of how to transfer files with FileCatalyst. So in order to do this, I already installed my FileCatalyst server. And as you can see, here is my user list for all the users that I have created on the server. As you can see, some users are connected directly to my C drive. I have a user here that is connected to S3. So this is actually a bucket on S3. And I have also a Samba user that is connected to Samba here. So I can use any of these users to connect with the client application. But really, this is all what it is to the servers. You create a user and a path where you want to get where you want the data to either go into or come out from. There are concepts like virtual folders and groups where you can group data together. But for the demo, for the purpose of this quick demo, I'm just going to show you the basic connectivity. So now I just switched to my FileCatalyst hot folder application. I'm already connected here to my users. So I have this user John that I made. I know the password. So now I'm going to go and create a new site. So the site is going to go to, it's going to be local because it's all localhost. I'm going to connect to port 990 because that's the secure port with SSL enabled. I'm going to enable authentication. And I'm going to specify the user I just created on the server already. Now I already also made myself a folder which I want to transfer or upload. So what I will do with this is I'm going to now point to this local folder on my laptop to transfer the files to the server. I'm going to call this demo files, and I'm going to select the location to go into my C. And I have this folder here, demo files. So now I have created my hot folder. Now I'm going to go to my scheduler, and now I'm going to create a task. I'm going to tell the hot folder, use this site with this hot folder and start an upload. So I'm going to click on New, Upload Demo. I'm going to select which hot folder, which site, and I want to do an upload location. I can select the scheduler. So let's say I want to run this every day at midnight. I'm just going to leave it at user triggered. That means I'm going to fire this up manually so I can show you how this works. And then I can select my protocol, whether you want UDP, TCP with congestion control, without. You can verify integrity of the files that transfer. You can enable multi-clients. Anyways, I'm not going to get into all these details. We have many other webinars to do it, but you can see you have a lot of options in here that you can select of how you want the hot folder to behave. So now my task is created, and now I can hit here on the activity window, and that's going to show me my task. So I'm going to just execute right now. And as you can see now, the file transfers are going. You can see the speed and which file is being transferred. So you can see the transfer now is capped at 50 megabits because that's what I told it to do. But I could go back to my hot folder and change the bandwidth to, let's say, I'm going to just select all, and I'm going to say I want to do 100 megabits. So if I go back here, you should see the speed starting to go faster because now we have a new speed, and there it is. My acceleration is now going faster because I set it to 100. So this is how easy it is to control bandwidth. This is how easy it is to see transfers. If I go back to my FileCatalyst server, I can see here the transfer going for this user, and I also have a nice bandwidth graph that will show me everything that is being transferred. Or I can click on activity for this one, and it will give me all the details, which file is going, visualization of data, logs, and everything on the server side as well as on the hot folder side. So there's a lot more to it, but for the introductory webinar, I think this is sufficient. So let's continue talking about FileCatalyst products. Another key file transfer product that FileCatalyst offers is FileCatalyst Workflow or Spaces. These are web-based solutions for creating web-based file transfer portals. The portal can be used for sending files to an email address, submitting files from the web. So if you have, let's say, customers and you need to receive large file submissions from the internet from your customers, creating web accessible shared folders so a team can collaborate on large files through a web-based folder. There's also a request files functionality where a user can specify a folder where they wish to receive files from and send an email, enter an email address, and that sender then has to send the files that the user requested from them. And there's a number of post-upload processing tasks, such as renaming, file renaming. There's a way to fire up post scripts if there's some kind of other backend processes you have to do. And there's also ability to create thumbnails or a video preview, which I will show you in a minute. So I kind of went through all these workflows already. Just let's go a little bit more in detail what we can do. So one of them is called send large files to any email. So the user logs in, provides an email address of the recipient that they wish to send the files to, and the recipient then gets a link in the email, clicks on the link, and downloads the file. This bypasses the email attachment limits that normal email servers have. You can also have something called a submission portal. So imagine you have a portal where you have many people come into that one portal to submit files, and they can specify some metadata with it, like, for example, the length or the video type and all that stuff. The metadata can be entered. This can trigger a back office job for processing this data, whether it could be transcoding, it could be antivirus, it could be a lot of different tasks. And then everybody, including the administrators and the user that submitted, can be notified through a status update that something has been changed. Some other workflows is the online file sharing for collaboration. So you click on a folder, you assign this folder to a team, and the team then collaborates on files with Excel file transfer, acceleration, and tracking. And the newest addition to our workflows is what we call request files. So in this case here, the end user selects some folder, pre-selects a folder where they wish to receive files to, and they enter the email address of the person that they want to get the files from. So they enter the email. That generates an email notification to the uploader. Uploader uploads the files to the folder that was pre-selected by the requester, and everybody gets a confirmation email that this is done. So what's the difference between workflow and spaces? They are essentially the same product. It's really just a delivery method and the deployment methods. So workflow is really for on-prem. So if you're running a solution on-premise, you can have unlimited users created on it. The licensing is also based on either a perpetual license or a monthly cost licensing. And everything runs on your infrastructure. You control the files, you control the backend process, everything is integrated. Spaces is the equivalent of workflow, but on demand or on the cloud. That means everything runs as a SaaS, software as a service. You sign up for a subdomain of FileCatalyst Spaces, and you essentially get a workflow instance where you can do everything on the cloud. Of course, then everything runs on the cloud, nothing is in your infrastructure. There are some key differences between these two products. One of them is that one is SaaS, of course, and one is on-prem. Both of them have file area, request files, web portals for uploading files, branding, hot folder, and real-time file transfer control is only available, however, in workflow and spaces. You get notified once the files arrive. You don't see the progress of the file while it's still being uploaded. And LDAP, Active Directory, and SSO is only available in workflow, as well as dynamic languages. So workflow you can specify any number of languages, and depending on the request coming from the user, the best language will be matched, so everything will look native to the end user. Everything will be in English or French or Spanish or whatever languages you need to support. So let's just go through some of the deployment scenarios that you have with Workflow. So Workflow, of course, is the on-prem version. It's the only version that you can run everything in-house. Optionally, you can connect the direct server that runs in-house to a cloud storage outside, but everything runs locally on-prem except for the cloud storage. SaaS with bring your own cloud storage. So here you run FileCatalyst Spaces. We provide you a direct server on the cloud. We provide you Spaces on the cloud, and you just bring your own storage. And you bring your own storage in the form of a connection string to either S3, Google Cloud, as Windows Azure, Backblaze, and Wasabi, and many others. So you just provide the string, and we drop the files in the storage of your choice. We have also something called a hybrid SaaS, and this is probably one of our most popular deployments, where Spaces runs on the cloud. You run the direct server on premise because you want to have data locally, access to data right away. You don't want to wait to the download period for these large files to be downloaded from the cloud back to your on-prem to start working. So direct server runs there. Files are placed directly in your facility to either a local storage or cloud storage of your choice, and you're off to the races. And of course, we also have a full turnkey SaaS option where we run everything. We run your storage, your FileCatalyst Spaces server, your FileCatalyst Direct server, and everything is just in one place. There's no option. So all these 4 deployment scenarios are available in Workflow and Spaces options. So let's go to the demo. So of course, Workflow is a web-based solution, so we're using everything and it's going to be running in a web browser. So I'm going to log in here as a user I already created. And because this is a brand new user, of course, there's no other transactions. So it's telling me to click on New Job to start. So I'm going to start here by showing you a workflow where I want to send a file to an email address. So I have a large file, and I want the recipient to pick up this file via a link that is sent in the email. So here I'm going to enter I clicked on New Job. I'm going to click on who I want to send the files to. I'm going to send the files to my demo account. Here are the files. I hope you like them. And I can be notified when the download occurs. I can disable this if, let's say, if I send something to maybe 50, 60 people, I might not want to see it because I'll get a lot of emails, but that's the option there. I can also optionally set here things like expiry of the link. And right now the link will never expire, but you can set here that you want to, let's say the link expires after 3 days or after it's been downloaded. There are many options to configure here. So now I'm going to hit up Upload Files, which brings me to the upload stage. Now I just have to select the files I want to upload. I'm going to go into my friendly demo folder, select a couple of files, and click on Start Upload. At this point, actually, I can shut down the browser. I've submitted everything. The plugin the transfer agent plugin will submit everything for me. But anyways, I set here and I'm done. So now the files have been submitted. Now the workflow is asking me if I want to add this to my address book. So sure, I'll say yes. And I have this recipient saved in my address book. So next time I don't have to type the email. I just select it from my address book. So that's pretty much on how easy it is to send a file. Now let's flip around my hat. Let's flip and become a recipient. So I'm going to open my email client, and here is the email that the recipient now will get to download the files. So they'll get the link to download the files. They'll get the message, the size, and again, everything is customizable in both Workflow and Spaces. This is all template driven, so all email notifications are templatable. So you can make them look the way you want it. This is sort of just the out-of-the-box experience. So I'm going to click on my download link, and this right away brings me to the files. So what can I do here as on download files? I have, I can download each file individually with UDP or with HTTP. I also have a video preview that I can play. It generates this
recording.
Preview. So this allows me to kind of preview of what I want to download without downloading the huge file first. And again, I have download all files to just grab all the files to download. So I'm just going to click that in this case here, because I know I'm going to have all the files, and my download is started. So download now completed, and now I have to do is just click on here, reveal download location, and this will bring up my folder with the files I sent. So let's look at another demo of another workflow, which is collaborating of large files on the web. So I'm going to log in as a demo user. I'm going to now click on File area, which brings me to a file area which I was assigned to. And now, given that if I have multiple group members assigned to the same file area, everyone can collaborate on files. So now I can just upload and download files. If there were more people assigned to this, I would see a link that would show me the change log of this folder, as well as there could be also optional email notifications to the team that I uploaded a new file or renamed a file. So this is something that is customizable as well. Last product I wanted to go over is our FileCatalyst Central. So this is like a monitoring management fabric over your FileCatalyst deployment. So imagine that you have many nodes deployed around the world of FileCatalyst server, hot folders, transfer agents, and now you need to be able to visually manage that entire system. So this is what Central does. So Central connects everything together, and you can report, manage, and get alarms when something doesn't work. So what can we do here? I'm not going to show you a real demo of this, as this would require probably a few much longer than this introductory product webinar. But what you get a real-time monitoring of all your file transfer nodes with FileCatalyst. You have different nodes described either through a server, hot folder, or transfer agent, and everything is visual. You also have alarms that can be raised through SNMP or via email, and you can also see all the bandwidth allocation. You can see who's taking up what bandwidth and which file transfer process is running right now. You get full reporting. You can report by nodes, by group of nodes, by sessions, by different time frames for all your file transfer needs. You also get with remote, you get full remote node administration. So you can drill down to any file transfer node, just like I showed you in my demo of Direct, where I connected to server and hot folder via the web. You can do this with Central to any node that is connected, and you can initiate, you can configure and initiate transfers between either node to node or node to server. And as well, Central gives you a full REST API. That means you can actually make REST calls to all these nodes to, let's say, change functionality or initiate a transfer. Central has also a very comprehensive alarms features. So if something breaks down, something stops working, we have over 25 different alarms from critical to very notification or minor ones. And those can be sent as SNMP traps to your enterprise network enterprise console or via email. You can also silence the alarms or and list them and search them if you need something from them. Central also has identity and access management. So this allows you to create multiple users in Central and assign these users to only specific nodes. So for example, my IT administrator in Europe might only have access to the FileCatalyst server in Berlin and a hot folder in London, while I am the global IT administrator in a completely different place, and I could see everything. So you can make these assignments and these changes and delegate only parts of FileCatalyst deployment to only certain key people. You can also connect Central to LDAP-S or Secure Active Directory if you want to if you don't want to manage the usernames and passwords in Central. You can just have Central do that, connect to those to do the authentication. So this is sort of what the user and management looks like, but you have your different users, you have your roles, you have your nodes, and you have your groups. And you can assign users to specific groups and groups to specific nodes, and then you can tell whether this is only a view only or a full administrative rights to certain aspects. And again, all of this can be done via API as well. So this is something that will give you ability to manage all of this. So essentially you can make your own content delivery network with FileCatalyst tools and Central. Last thing that we also provide in Central is something called Transfer Controller. This allows you to, as you know, we're a client-server type of deployment where you have client and servers. So if you want to do a transfer node to node, you would need Transfer Controller. So what Transfer Controller will do is you would punch in all the information which node you want to transfer files from to which node, and Transfer Controller will queue up all this transferring. So the file data will flow from node 1 to a direct server, and then node 2 will download from this server. And all of this is sort of coordinated through the controller. This is really useful for third-party orchestration tools and for those that need the immediate status feedback on the transfers. This also saves you money ultimately, because as we don't charge for client applications, you can then save a few dollars by having less direct servers required in your deployment. So thank you for watching this demo. Let's just go review some options if you're considering to deploy a managed file transfer solution in your business, or maybe accelerated file transfer solution. Look for the following key points. Look for a solution that plays well with the traffic. There are software applications out there that do not adapt properly to your network characteristics and can flood your network. Make sure you have a guaranteed delivery built in. So something that will do a checksum and verify that the file is identical. You sort of like a tracking, like you get a package tracking delivery with one of the package delivery options. So let's say UPS. So if you get your UPS tracking number and it shows you that it was delivered, you know it was delivered. So you want to have a similar concept in the digital age where a solution can provide you with this. Make sure that you can do a 10 gig file transfers on a single file, especially if you're working with really large files and you don't have many of them, but they're big. You want something that can optimize this. If you're working with a lot of small files, well, make sure the solution adapts to that as well. It's very time-consuming to open a socket to transfer a single file. You want a solution that can work and open a single socket and transfer hundreds or thousands of files via this one socket and then close it down. This will give you a better performance. If you're dealing with millions of files, you also want to have a solution that can work with that. FileCatalyst does work with millions of files. In fact, there's no limit how many files we can transfer in one go. The real limit is just time limitation and bandwidth limitation. But our solution, we test our transfers up to with 8 million files almost nightly. Make sure you have the automatic resuming. So if you're transferring a file and there's a disconnect, the client software will be able to reconnect and resume from the last checkpoint that it got. Make sure you have the automation tools. Make sure you have an SDK for your REST, your Java, C++ transfers. Make sure you have some kind of a central management system where you can manage all of this. Look for a solution that can transfer multiple files at once, especially if you're starting to work with thousands of files. Having multiple files going at once it will give you a benefit. So this is what we call the multi-client in our software. Look at a solution that will maintain your Linux and Windows file attributes, your UID, GID, username, last date modified. This is something that will be very useful when you're doing a lot of file transfers. And of course, if you're considering to do a hybrid cloud approach, then FileCatalyst is a perfect solution for that, because we work with object storage such as S3, Dropbox, Azure. So if you're doing a hybrid on-prem cloud solution or full cloud solution, you will still need a file transfer acceleration to get to your files as fast as possible. So please, you can go to our website at filecatalyst.com/trial, and you can request a trial for any of the products I mentioned here: Direct, Central, Workflow, Spaces. We're also on AWS and Azure marketplaces, so you can just spin up an instance there as well, and run it that way. If you're interested in more information from us, sign up for our newsletter, so FileCatalyst-newsletters, and once a month we send you it's not spam, it's really very, very specific information on tips and tricks, interesting case studies, webinar invitations like this webinar, and any new product launches and upcoming events. I mean, we're doing quite a few in-person events, but now with the coronavirus, we're doing much more digital events. So, but it's still a very useful information to know what we're up to and where we're going. So please consider registering for our newsletter. So thank you very much for your participation. I hope you enjoyed this quick introduction. I had a lot of ground to cover. I hope you liked it, and see you next time.